Alright, it looks like we're good to go. What's going on? I'm Galaxy. Welcome to part 3 um, of this devlog slash code breakdown slash Unreal Engine tutorial series I'm doing. Gonna be using my game Project EAD. Excuse me, a little rough this morning. Any questions, throw them in the chat, leave a comment on the video. I think I'm just going to dive right in. Today I wanted to go into the EA, to the player character for this game, or for this project. In the editor, it's called EAD Player. My plan is to kind of show some of the features in the code and then reflect them how they operate in the game, just to see the one-on-ones and see how it works. So yeah, let's get started. So for starters, I have this event begin play here at the beginning. It's gonna be your starting point for most stuff. I definitely want to collapse all this stuff into functions, and what better time than now to show that? So, let's see. At the start of the game, I get the current level name, and depending on the level that the character is in, the game will operate a little bit differently. So this is kind of the way I did it. It's not great, but it is the way it is. We get the current level name, which is does what it says. Current level name is training. If the player is, and for the test map, or for the map where you actually go through and fight the waves, it's called map 1, just for some easy naming. We set some different stuff. I'm going to be re-going over this stuff, so it's going to be a little... Sorry. I want to make sure this is playing in the background of the video, or on the side. I have old gameplay down below. I need to work on 3D down below. I'm just going to be showing on loop because, hey, I get to see the improvements of where it was before and where it is now. And if I'm going to be showing anybody's content, I might as well be showing my own. So feel free to check out those videos. My buddy Raph trying out the game for what I think maybe the first or second time in an even earlier stage. That was last year, but let me get back on topic. So just first and foremost, I want to collapse this into a function. Get map name. Real simple. I think this kind of works for now, but I definitely want to make this cleaner because I'm going to obviously have way more than just 1 or 2 maps, so there needs to be a better way for me to make sure that the right things are happening when the character is on a certain map. Let's see. This is getting the game instance. Player character, and then just making a log. So just to give a quick breakdown, if you aren't familiar with Unreal Engine, here's some of the important things to know. The blueprints are basically uh, linked nodes, or nodes that you linked. If you're familiar with the concept of linked lists, uh, they are pretty much those where you can create uh, pins to input certain information and connect them to a node. So, for example, this one's a little complex for sure. I'm getting the game instance, which is, I mean, just kind of self-explanatory. The current instance of the game. I have one specifically for this project. There's a struct called the player car that has information about the player, basically all their stats, and I need to be adding more to this soon. But all their stats and their companions. I need to add the skills in there. Let me. I need a notepad for little important notes like that for me to document. The reason people don't make huge games like this by themselves is that documentation like this is super duper important. Um, Alright, so adding that, I set the input mode to the player. It's probably just making sure that if any menus were up, um, that they are closed. They'll automatically close when the player changes maps, but then I want to make sure that the player controller is only looking at game mode inputs. We change the body to the one that the character had, that to match the one in the character game instance, by getting its species enum. The stats will probably be a similar thing. It gets the game instance, the player character, and then assigns all of these variables in the player character from the character instance. So basically, when you see the player change maps, I'm basically saving all the data that character has, and then I move it to that part of the map. So, for example, in my last video, or I can just show it here actually, when the player moves to the map, all the current skills uh, actually get removed from it. Oh, you're actually going to come around to me. Can you go away? Thank you. So let me full screen this. So here in the left, we have the current skills that the player has equipped on their hotkeys. If I start the game by, right now it's pressing Y, but I'm gonna make something more cinematic for that when in a later video for sure. So now you can see the Hot Wheel is empty, and so are the items. There are items down here in this blue box before. So the reason why those aren't populated is because the skills aren't being pulled through on my game instance. So let's just say I wanted to make a quick fix to that. We're gonna go to the player car struct, which I thought I could get to from here, but maybe something not in that folder for some reason. it is really good to know how to navigate the content folder in Unreal Engine 5, doing things like finding the exact thing doesn't pop up, which it's not. So maybe I should not assume that this variable, okay, that's what the problem is. The actual variable name, the variable in the Chronicle game instance is player character, but obviously the name of the value is character struct. Look at me, living and learning real time. So, or being reminded rather, which is another reason I'm doing this. I want to make sure I'm staying on my P's and Q's. So, for the skills on this, in this, they exist on the player character in a couple different ways. I hate this because I don't know how to remove it all the time. And maybe this is a good time to learn, but maybe it also isn't. I really just need you at the bottom where you were before. Oh, Unreal. There's no reason that you shouldn't. There we go. Okay, so this variable S skill has 16 slots, one for each slot in the hotkey, and this skills array above assigned skills is going to contain every single skill the character has, so it's going to be pretty large. I want to play around with using kind of different container types for that at some point, to try and see if I can minimize that storage space, but that's going to be an experiment for another time. The reason I looked that up is because I wanted to show the name of the value that we're going to be storing, and also make sure it's the right one. There's nothing wrong with double checking your work. So I'm actually going to make one for skills and assigned skills because they are different variables and they are applied to the character in different ways. I don't think in updating the skills system, so stay tuned for that one. I also wanted to do the items. Okay, I generate items when the character spawns. Starting item names. So this is just something I set up to make sure that inventory system, or just to test out the inventory system. It hasn't been fully flushed in yet, but just to, you know, get it on the HUD, get an idea of what it's going to look like in game. Excuse me, might be coming down with something. Stay healthy out there, friends. Oh, just wanted to show in full screen. I really need to make you go away so you stop interrupting me. These are the items. Heal 1, it shows the amount in parentheses next to the name, and by pressing, or, well, stamina 2 and then mana regen is what that stands for. And so you can see those reflected in the starting items: heal 1, stamina 2, MP regen. So that's where those are coming in. I'm not super worried about items right now, but just saving that name should suffice for getting the right information. So I'm going to go hit starting items. This is going to be a name string. No, it's a name array. Yeah, it's a name array. So now when we go back to the player character, we're going to go to character stats. I believe there is a neater way to do this. I don't want all these variables in a struct because of the way they're going to be utilized. And I don't like the way this looks, if we're being honest. But I'm going to leave it for now because, well, just because really. But what I will do is make it a tad bit neater. You are an array, or you are a struct. So I wonder why you are that. I don't think you should do. Oh, construct. Yep. Let's see. Companions. Interesting. So from what I know of Unreal Engine, you don't really want to move whole actors, between levels. It's a larger load. Unreal can kind of handle it. Most computers these days will handle it pretty well. But yeah, it makes sense to me that you want to move as least data as possible for the best result. Definitely helps with like loading times. If you have a multiplayer game and you are relying on like net code and stuff like that, you really want to make everything as efficient as possible. So I'm going to leave that for now. I'm not super worried. Right now the companions move from the level perfectly fine, but I do want to make sure they're being stored as properly as possible. So basically all I'm doing is attaching these variables that I just made to their equivalent variables inside of the player character. They have the same names, so kind of works out great, and that's how I wanted to do it. So we're just going to move that at the end. Not super clean. I definitely want to make that a little bit cleaner in the future, but it's also not the highest of priorities at this very moment. So I will put that on the back burner and have written a note for it. So now what I expect to happen is when the player character spawns in the first map, they will now have. Sorry, you need to go bye-bye. They will then have the skills that they currently have and items that they currently have when they load in. They do not. So let's see. First, I'm going to go to the event begin play. We're gonna. Why am I doing this here? Interesting. Oh, this is the aim. I am not in the right graph. That is why. Event begin play. We add skills here. We don't add skills here. We add items here. We don't have items here. It's usually the simple things of why they don't work. Why I'm not doing this stuff up here is probably just because of the janky way that I was setting this stuff up. Want to be doing this a little bit cleaner. So my goal is that by the end of this video, which has gone on for about 20 minutes now, I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes just cleaning this stuff up, putting these into functions, so that next time we come glance at this, I have a better idea of what's going on with my own code. I don't think this is needed anymore. Please let me delete you. Why can't I delete you? Is the game still running? No. Unreal. Am I doing something I don't know? Oh, it's never happened to me before. Should just be able to select and delete. Okay. Okay. Unreal's being funny. Being funny. There was a reason you were here. Also, writing comments are super important. I do not know why you are working but don't need to be attached. I don't think putting an amount in there is helpful. I don't even think this needs to be here. So what I will do is encapsulate that in a comment. Do that. I like to make it a color that stands out when I am questioning my decisions about something. And then I'll move on. So we're going to add these skills and items functions to, I don't think the wave matters that much, to the event begin play that happens when the player loads into the map. We're going to check this out. It's so crazy because I made this stuff a year ago. And since then, I've worked at a couple different places. So all this is kind of my old code flow. And it absolutely is atrocious, admittedly. Seeing the stuff I was doing now and having to read back. So this project uses a lot of blueprints just because I wanted to just see how blueprints worked in Unreal Engine and just kind of get a feel for really using it, trying to make a large project. I'm going to be incorporating more C++ into these classes going forward, but all this stuff's already built. So I'm just going to work with what's currently here, and for the newer stuff, I'm going to hop into blueprints for that. So I also have a ton of strings, which I think are still useful for me at this current moment, so they're going to remain. So basically we have an add. Let's see, we get all of our starting skills. We have an array. These are all the starting skills that the player loads in with. Interestingly enough, a lot of these actually don't come in on the player, which is something I need to figure out. I'm gonna get some music to be playing during this. What do I got going on? I have been getting wrecked by whatever's going on here. It's been getting cold out here in Maryland. Cool. I was wondering what was going on here. In this little thing I'm messing with. Give me a second. I have other people's videos in here. I have multiple playlists that have like stuff, and I want to add more gameplay to these. That'll be for the future. So to working on multitasking is going to be one of the things I do in this tutorial series. So basically, we look at each one of these names. We get the data table and the skill list. Data table, where did you go? Oh, here we go. Basically, this is the data table that contains all of the skills that I currently have in the game. Some working, some not working. Which reminds me, I wanted to put this there so that the main character's sword of range attack works. So basically, plugging the controller in. So basically, that list that we see here goes through, matches each name of each ability. So the name in the skill list data table, just gonna give a quick data tables breakdown. It has a row name, and then there's variables that you can attach to, or that you can add to, well, let me reel it back real quick. Data tables are made from structs. Okay, structures, data structures. This skill list data table is made from my S skills structure. We saw that early in the video. That I use to make the assigned skills and skills variables. Basically, what's in here? We have a name, description, skill type, stat to cost. Basically, is it going to take mana, health, stamina, essence, whatever value that needs to be consumed in order for this skill to work, if any. Duration, how long the skill works. This is for projectiles. This is for area effects that remain. This is for buffs, shields, etc. Cooldown, after you use it, how long is it going to take for the skill to be usable again. Powers, so we'll go over powers later, but with powers, this skill will have or be related to damage, how much damage it does. Nice and simple. Range, similar to, not similar. Basically how big it is. For some abilities, you'll be able to make them larger or extend them, still making larger, based on the range the skill has. Proc type, whether it's on hit or on cast, so this will be like for abilities that have like secondary effects, or skills that have secondary effects. Sometimes it's just when the player casts them, they're gonna trigger. Sometimes if the player's hit, maybe if it's a defensive skill that only triggers when the player's hit, or when the enemy's hit, something like that. Projectile type, so whether it's a projectile that is just fired. Point is more of like placed, and I should probably update that name, but it makes sense to me at the moment. Target will be just like if you aim at them and cast it on them, cast it towards their direction, it'll automatically just hit. Kind of similar to, yeah. That's why point and target need to be differentiated. And then self, which is self-explanatory, just beyond itself. So let me just update that projectile name, because that is one of the things that I don't want to get confused about later. So I'm going to update everything. Once that's done updating, now it's placed, target, projectile, placed, target, and self. Element damage, so I currently have a few different element types in the game: fire, water, ice, lightning. Element damage will kind of decide what, you know, how much of that element type you take. We know video games here, we know what I mean. Projectile, I need to change that. Projectile actor is going to be the actor that's fired when the player fires the skill. So different skills will have different projectile actors. For example, earlier I did this super quick, but let me explain what I did. This M sword projectile is what the player fires when they do their ranged attack. Why are you running? Just to show, a little simple sword with a collision box that needs help. Why do I have this sphere collision? There's a reason that sphere collision box is there. I don't know it yet, but I will go back and figure out. Oh, I know why. It's a child of the master projectile, which has that collision box there, and it's turned off. So it's not super relevant, but I answered my own question, and it's good to know what the heck I was doing. So we're gonna hop back. Keep saying it's struggling. I hope it's doing okay. I feel like it's doing okay. So as I showed in previous videos, but just to give a quick explainer, on controller, right trigger is how to attack by hitting left trigger, similar to like shooting games. We know how this works. If you hold the left trigger and then you press the right trigger, it does it fires basically a projectile, similar to like aiming and firing. So before this wasn't working, now it is again. So now he's shooting little swords out of his sword. So of course that's a work in progress thing, but it works for now. So just wanted to quickly show that that's sword throw, but to show some of the other ones for water storm, for example. This is a ranged skill, and when I fire it, I don't have anything equipped there. This one does work though. This is Firestorm, another ranged skill. When you cast that, it spawns a tornado that for right now follows the player. Something I'm working on. So that is what projectile actor does. You don't need to worry about that. For this is to kind of like create a overarching structure that I can utilize for each individual skill type. So for example, a projectile skill doesn't need movement variables, but I want to have them all in the same space, so that if, for example, movement, or how do I say, I don't need to have multiple different skill structs for each one. And Unreal makes that possible because you can put structs inside of structs. But while I'm building this out, I want to make sure I fully understand everything going on. So I haven't done that just yet, but that is in the making. So we strayed, but we're back to the skills. We see how, like, where these skills are being put in. So now that we get to here, once this finishes this loop, we get a data skill, we go the out row, we're adding if the row is found, and if it's not, I'm going to say something and print to error and add it to our list of skills. Nice and clean. After that's done, I have another variable here for another name array. Let's just not say variable. Let me be more specific. Another name array for variable skills, and I have a live feed of me during the live feed. That's gonna get kind of crazy if that keeps going. It's just be me, my face showing me, and my face showing me, and my face. Right now it's whatever. So, kind of similar how this other names array, name array works. It goes through the skill list data table, and for the rows that match the name, it's gonna get the length, make sure it's not exceeding, make sure that name is equal to 0. Make sure the current name of the whatever skill is in that index is false, right? If it's false, do nothing to the skill there, leave it. For whatever reason, I put the skill there, I don't want to mess with it. And then add the skill. We're going to update the skill menu by hitting get skills and update the commands. If for some reason, like say one of the skills I make is a command, or I want to update the companion and make sure that the commands are updated to reflect what that companion can do. Like for example, that companion can use certain skills, and the player wants to command that companion to use a skill. Get commands, get skills on the skill display, and then we break it after it's all done, or after it's done that one, because I don't want to going to do that for each array type, only for the ones that the skill has that are in the assigned skills. So this is why I'm not seeing a bunch of them on the starting skills. They are in starting skills, not assigned skills. So they should be appearing in my menu, but they should not be attached to the hotkeys. Yeah, cool. Let's see. Let me make a slight change that I think will be good for future videos. We're gonna switch. Yeah. Which I'm afraid of. We're gonna switch the firestorm and waterstorm skills with ball skills. Ball skills might work a little bit better. Wind ball does not work. So we're gonna go back, start it up, and then check out what they look like. So I'm gonna cook the water ball first. We're gonna fire it. Ooh, look at that. We got a cool little water ball. So those less pretty. I actually made this particle animation myself using some of the stuff Unreal had, so not super pretty, but it works. This one though is from one of the VFX effects, and I may be using some of these because that looks pretty clean. Okay, cool. So I don't want to make these super long. We haven't done a super lot with the player character, only kind of scratched the surface. I fixed some bugs, I organized a little bit of stuff, but there's still a lot to go. Oh, let me make sure this works. I wanted to make sure that when the player spawns into the map, that it carries over those skills and items with it, and by moving up that by moving those skills, set skills and set items variable, or function rather. It's supposed to be working, so unfortunately these projectiles don't have collision, but I'm gonna set that up in the future. So skills carry over. The projectiles that are firing from the skills need a little work. They need to drain stamina or mana, depending on which one. But yeah, that's gonna be the video for today. Thank you for yeah, those are because those I changed up those skills and didn't add that to the list. So those makes sense. It doesn't like that. Whew, okay. We've been going for 41 minutes. Man, I can really just get sucked into this. It's difficult. It's big, but I love it. That's what she said. And yeah, any questions, comments, concerns, critiques, tips, tricks, whatever, throw them my way. Happy to answer what I can, and any advice or whatever is appreciated. At this point, this is still just a big project I'm working on. There's a lot of moving parts. I'm re-going over my old code, which is, if you're a programmer, you know, like, you learn so much in a year that you from the year before, it seems like a crazy person. So I'm gonna be tidying up my own stuff while I go through these. If you've been watching, thanks for watching. I super appreciate it. I'm gonna be doing these all through the week. Live streaming pretty early, maybe like 6-7 a.m. and going until I can, really. So leave a like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. If you know somebody that's moving to Unreal, hey, give my devlog a shot. If you want to check out the current iteration of Project EAD, it is on GameJolt. It's going to be in the description. Check me out on Facebook, Galaxy Blades on Instagram, and yeah, have a great one. I'll see you later.